to become more empowered, to become more in control of your life, to add on to those sources yourself, that you are a source within yourself to be all that you need to be to live your highest life, to live your optimal life.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Hey, listener, it's Lara Jane, your host, and I am so excited to be here with Faith. Faith is my new friend, and she is here to help empower women in being their best self. And she's going to show us how to do that through breaking out of that stress cycle and letting it go in the past. Doesn't that sound so refreshing? I want to put it behind me. So let's do this, Faith. Tell us about getting out of that stress cycle.
Hey, thank you so much for having me here on your podcast. I'm really excited. I want to talk about something that I think is just a common challenge for all of us women who are kind of high achieving or high producing women. And this is about the stress cycle. And kind of from the get-go, I want to just push against the stigma that comes around stress. We hear so much from the health community or, Business 101 or self-help about how stress is like our enemy and how we've got to manage it or control it or reduce it out of our life as if it's this thing that we're trying to overcome and conquer all of the time. It's this bad thing that we have to get rid of, or we're going to have heart attacks early or have onset, chronic diseases. And so I kind of want to just start by really talking about what stress is and pushing against and challenging this idea of removing stress out of our life. And the way that I like to talk about it is we talk about our nervous system, right? But actually there's more than one nervous system. There's several different nervous systems. And one of them is called the sympathetic nervous system. I'm going to get a little sciencey and geeky for a second, but I do think it helps us understand ourselves so that we know how best to support ourselves as women. So, you have your sympathetic nervous system, which is what we would call the stress response. And really how I like to define it is it's our body's way of jumping into action. So people may call it the fight, flight, or freeze. They may call it a stress response. But really all it's doing is your brain is telling your body, hey, we need to do something. We need to jump into action, right? So we want that, right? In our life, if we're mothers, we need to jump into action sometimes, right? If we are in relationships or whatever, sometimes we need to be engaged and a part and have fun and do things. If we have a career, we need to be producing value and getting tasks done and doing all the things. And so we need our body to respond in stress, so to speak, right? We need our body to say, hey, it's time to get up and go. And this is what happens in the sympathetic nervous system. So kind of on a biological level, your sympathetic nervous system, when it's ignited, your pupils dilate so you can get more light into your eyes so you can see things. Your heart starts racing, trying to get blood to all the parts of your muscles so that you can walk or do something or whatever it is, that task that you're trying to do. Your bronchi from your lungs, they start expanding so you can get a lot of oxygen so that it can get it to your muscles and all your different organs. Your brain needs a lot of oxygen. So you need to be able to expand your lungs. It starts decreasing or inhibiting saliva production, all of your GI tract, your digestive system, because, hey, it's not time to sit and eat and chum it up, veg out. It's time to get into action. So it kind of starts not shutting it down, but decreasing the ability for it to do its job. And then it also, which we can talk about this because I find it fascinating, it's also what stimulates orgasm for women and men. And then your and I'll tell you why that's important. I know now everyone's like, ooh, let's stop and talk about that for a second.
Yes,
and I'll get
but we'll wait for you.
But I'll talk about the other one and then we'll bring those together. And so then we have what the other system that we want to ignite is the parasympathetic nervous system. So you have sympathetic and parasympathetic. And the parasympathetic is your rest and digest. So when this one is ignited, it's saying, hey, we can actually relax. We can sit. We can digest our food. We don't need to jump into action. Our pupils will constrict. We don't need to see as much. It's basically the opposite. So our bronchi, they kind of constrict. We don't need as much oxygen or air. Our heart decreases, it slows down. We don't need as much blood pumping to all the different places in our body. And then our digestive system starts stimulating and all the enzymes and everything. It's saying, hey, now it's time to actually absorb the nutrition that you're feeding your body. And then we get to the last thing, which is this is what stimulates arousal for men and women. So here's what I think is fascinating, and we'll talk about this about optimal health, is being able to not be stuck in either one of these systems, but be able to flux between these. So even in this moment, I'll go ahead and put this in there. Even this moment of kind of some of the greatest pleasure, physical pleasure that we have as humans, we need to be able to first start out in that parasympathetic, that rest, not stress, no tension. We can relax, our body can relax, and we can get aroused. But then it needs to switch somewhere along the way. We need to flip into that get up and action, and our body will actually go and have an orgasm when it's in that sympathetic, like, ooh, like get your muscles going, your air's you're breathing heavier, your heart's pounding. It's flipping into the other one. And that's how you can reach orgasm. And so for people who are stuck in either system, even some of the greatest pleasure that we have in the world, physical pleasure, is limited, even if it's just with yourself, self-pleasure, whatever it is, but it's limited by not being able to move back and forth between those two systems.
That is
Let's
so
hear your
interesting. No, the couple thoughts that I've had so far is it makes a lot of sense why we have this stress response for our own safety, for our own reasons. And you would never want to shut that off.
No.
But it's that never ending, okay, it triggered, it doesn't have to stay. You prevented that thing that was going to harm you. We'll have to think about it for the next 30 years of our lives.
Yeah.
So, being able to switch that off, which I know we'll talk about later. But I had never really connected the two. But yeah, when your body is fully engaged at that moment of orgasm, it's way different. So, yeah, you couldn't do that just resting on the
Yeah.
couch.
So let's think about it.
It's a
Sorry, go
very
ahead.
good response. Let's keep it.
It is, right? So that's a part of the reason I even bring it up is because so much of the world has told us when our body is acting this way, we call it stress, and then we label it as bad, right? Well, then we would have to label orgasms as bad because that's the exact same thing happening in your body, right? And so that's where we want to push against that stigma of like, why is this bad? Like it's actually can be really good. It produces amazing things in our life. It brings a lot of pleasure
All
to
the
our life.
people are here because of it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just start there, that we can just start and say, maybe I even want to start challenging the belief that the stress that I'm experiencing is like as if something's gone wrong. I need to stop it or get rid of it. Maybe not.
I have a little bit of, I agree that we could not get rid of the trigger and that we need that initial response.
Yes.
I don't want to live in it all the time. So how switching between that trigger back to that rest cycle or I'm safe cycle, that's where I think I get hung up. I mean, I've had my panic attacks and I've gone to the hospital because of so they can be really severe when we don't get out of them. It did its job already. I'm safe, but I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah.
Or it did its job already. I'm pregnant. We're going to keep the world population going. But there's also that other part of living that even though it's not bad as a trigger and a thing, it does burn out our bodies if we hold on to it and relive it and relive it.
Yes.
And so that's kind of how do we flip out of that and back into that rest cycle where we feel safe again?
Yeah. And so I think that's where the conversation should be, right? It's not how do we get rid or reduce stress? It's how do I support my nervous system and reteach my nervous system to be able to move back and forth, to respond when appropriate and to rest when appropriate. And so this is why I talk about getting unstuck or breaking that stress cycle, because what we see in our modern day world is that we kind of move from one stressor to the next, right? So we don't usually go from one stress, then we take some rest time, then we go to another stress. when our body was designed and our brain and our nervous system and all of this, life was not as complicated. We didn't have as many stressors coming our way. But in our modern world, nonstop stressors, right? And so what happens is that because we never kind of flux between the two, we just kind of get on this loop into our sympathetic nervous system or our stress system. And then it gets stuck in this cycle. And then when it actually is time and appropriate to relax, to like disengage, to go on holiday, whatever that is, our body's like, nope, nope, nope. And it just stays in that anxious, kind of high cortisol, heart pumping, racing, kind of panicky, urgent, all of that energy in our body. And that's when we kind of can run into these problems that are more chronic. And that is something that we need to address. And so I think the question is not, oh, what do I do so that I don't have as much stress? It's like, how do I support my nervous system so that I can teach it and train it to move appropriately and respond appropriately? And part of that is to make sure we have those downtimes and the times that we can move into that parasympathetic, that rest and digest system.
And you talk about that, and I know so many people just like say, I want to shut down my brain. I've got to have a glass of wine just to shut down my brain. I've got to take a sleeping pill just to shut down my brain. And we turn to chemicals instead of our natural ability. Oh, and yes, they work. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to make that switch without having to go to something else, to have it inside your body? Because I know our bodies are meant to cycle back and forth.
Absolutely.
Why do we feel like we want to hold on to the one and not the other?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we shouldn't hold on to either. But let's take a quick break and I'm get a word from our sponsor. And when we come back, let's discuss how to use our body its own personal abilities instead of all of these substances that we tend to lean to because we've lost the knowledge or the ability. We haven't practiced it enough.
Yeah.
So we'll come back and learn
and available in each one of us. So yes, let's talk about it when we get back.
All right. Talk to you in a sec.
This podcast is sponsored by Lara Jane Coaching. You know you're ready to silence your inner bully voice. Let Lara Jane support you with coaching. To schedule an introduction call, go to larajanelayton.com.
And we're back. And I have had my share of sleeping pills or glasses of wine at the end of the night because my brain just doesn't want to shut off. So, I've done meditation, I've done walks, I'm trying to think of all the natural things I've tried, but they take a lot more effort than taking a pill.
Yes, they do. It's true. I think a lot of times it's important for us to envision what our life would be like if we were able to support our own nervous system and didn't have to, rely on outside sources. When you become, and this is where I think that empowerment comes from, right? When you become the source of all that you need for yourself as a woman, what can you not do? When you're needing or relying on things outside of yourself, your life is limited. And so when we talk about this, of course you can use medication. Of course you can use different substances. Of course you can use all of these things. Those aren't bad in themselves. And I'm not even saying that you should feel guilty or there's judgment against it. But what I'm saying is to become more empowered, to become more in control of your life, to add on to those sources yourself, that you are a source within yourself to be all that you need to be to live your highest life, to live your optimal life. And so that's what I would love to share and talk about. Or what are some of those ways that we can support our nervous system? What can we do to train it?
Sounds beautiful. I want to do this because I do. I take CBD oil to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And I honestly think it's good for our bodies, so I don't feel guilty doing it.
Yeah.
But my body has conditioned itself that if I don't have it, I don't fall asleep as well.
Yeah.
And so there are times when you get stuck outside your home or in a different location and you need a different. So to help me know on those days, how do I shut that off?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of little tricks. And, I didn't make any of this up. These are all on Google if you want to look, but it is well known. These are some kind of from the neuroscience and behavioral psychology world. They have found things that work for your brain. Your brain is your control center of your nervous system. So if it's being triggered into stress or if it's triggered into rest and digest, your brain is a big part of that. It's not the only part of that. Your nervous system also responds in other ways as well, but it's primarily your brain. So if you can teach your brain something and rewire your brain, then the control center ignites and triggers the nervous system in different ways. Does that make sense? Like if your brain is telling your nervous system how to respond.
Okay.
So you really want to learn how to teach your brain how to understand and interpret your life. So these different stressors or time to relax. So, I mean, I think it would be good just to say for you who may be wondering, oh, well, am I stuck in a stress cycle? How would I know? Let me just go over that really quickly. Like, I think kind of what you said, right? Is that if you are laying down in bed, but your mind is just still 90 to nothing and thinking about all the things tomorrow, and you just can't shut off your brain. Or you get home from work and you're so exhausted, your body's like, please just rest. But yet you feel jittery inside and it's like you just can't stop. You can't sit. You're just so restless and just so, hyped up. And it takes you a good 2 hours to even just disengage and finally feel that kind of relaxing sensation in your body. Or if you go on holiday and it takes you 3 days to disengage before you actually feel like you can relax and have fun. These are ways that you know, hey, I may be stuck in the stress cycle and my body's not getting out of it in an appropriate way. So you mentioned meditation, Dane, and that's one of them for sure. I can't quote it directly, so I want to be careful, but it was a very respected medical study that was done on the brain, and they took a very large group of people and they broke them up into two groups. One of them was with people who practice some kind of meditation. And when I say meditation, I think that is a broad term. It doesn't mean sitting and just being in absolute silence and emptying your brain. I think there's so many different kinds of meditation, but basically 10 to 15 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week, right? And so they had those. And then they had people who never practiced any kind of meditation at all. And what they did is they blindfolded them and then they would give them a painful stimulus. For the sake of this conversation, I'm not really sure. I don't remember. But let's say that they like pinched them, right? Or poked them with something. And, they had their brains hooked up to all the little nodes so they could see the activity of the brain. And across the board in both groups, when they gave them a painful stimuli, their brain registered as pain. And then they would remove the painful stimuli. For the people who meditated 2 to 3 times a week, their brain immediately was like, okay, done. Pain's gone. And it stopped lighting up. For those who didn't, their brain still registered that they were experiencing pain and that thing was gone. So they would say, tell me when it's gone. And they still felt pain, even though they had removed it because their brain was stuck in this stress response, fight, flight, or freeze, right? And so it was still registering pain. They were experiencing and feeling pain when there was no painful stimuli in their life. So I really think, like, when you think of the bigger picture here, how much pain are you experiencing in your life? It's not even a reality simply because you're stuck in a stress, simply because your brain doesn't know how to switch out when it's time, right? So when you have pain, you want your brain to register pain, do something, right? But when the pain's gone, you also want to be able to relax and be like, pain's gone, let's move on. And so that study showed just how powerful being stuck in this, what we would call the stress cycle, being stuck in the sympathetic nervous system really affects even our experience of our life. So I highly, highly recommend that you do some form of meditation 2 to 3 times a week, even for 5 to 10 minutes. I know you're a busy woman, got lots of things on your plate, but the benefit is huge for you.
I actually love to meditate. So it's made a big difference in my life.
Yeah. I don't know of anybody who actually has practiced it for a while because in the beginning, it's uncomfortable. In the beginning, it's like, what am I doing? In the beginning, your mind's all over the place. You just feel so like, I don't know how to do this. But the more you practice it, the easier it becomes and the more it becomes almost vital.
So for our listener, I want to you talked about different kinds of meditation. Because I would guess that higher than 80% of the people who have never meditate imagine meditation as sitting cross-legged on a mat with your hands in a little modality, not modality. God,
some
never
kind of
mind. It doesn't,
position,
it doesn't
open
matter what
position.
that word is.
Yeah.
And sitting there, maybe doing or something
Yeah.
to just, stay in emotion. But meditation can come from a walk outside.
Mhm.
Meditation can come from coloring. It can come from journaling. It can come from dancing. Anything that gets that brain, dumps you out of the think mode is a way to meditate. So I know, look it up online, Google it, or whatever you use, because there are thousands of ways to meditate.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to be the cross-legged person with sitting super great posture, there are ways around that. And I think one of my favorites, automatic writing, is just sitting down with a pen, asking a question, and just letting it flow and not thinking, letting it flow. And I think that's a huge difference. I have a really good friend. Her favorite is dance, and it goes to, God, you know what? Some days my brain doesn't work, but we go and just all of us just dance in this big gym, and it's just with the DJ, and there's no partners or no nothing. It's just fun, ecstatic dance is what we call it. So there's a lot of ways to get out of that. So
Yes.
what is your favorite way?
For me, meditation is any way that I can connect with my body and become present with sensations, right? So that can, like you said, I mean, it could be dance when you're connecting with your body through movement. When, like going on a walk, being really present with the earth and grounding with your feet. There's so many different kinds of meditation. My favorite is probably what the next one that I was going to share is called like tapping into your five senses.
Oh, yes.
So there's an easy one, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you identify 5 things that you see, and then you identify 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And so you kind of just go through those and just really become aware of your sensations, because your brain, the part of your brain that actually is like kind of inputting or understanding the sensations, is really closely related in proximity to where your parasympathetic nervous system is ignited. A warm drinking any kind of warm beverage, as it goes down your throat, it hits the parasympathetic main nerve and it will actually ignite it. So I didn't know this before, but I used to say, there's something about drinking a warm beverage with a person that opens you up and makes you feel all cozy and safe. It's really true. There's like, now I know the science behind it, right? So just sitting
Why
with
we
a
love
warm
coffee
beverage.
in the morning.
Yes. Or a tea, or when like with you're with a friend or you're just sitting there, there's something very safe and secure and relaxing about a hot beverage, right? Even though caffeine's going to pop you up or whatever, which is totally fine. It's not a problem, but it's igniting that parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest, just drinking something warm. It could be hot water. Who cares, Another one is breathing for 4 counts in, holding your breath for 4, and then releasing for 4, exhaling for 4 counts. And you really want to count. The reason why is because when your stress system is ignited, your brain's on high alert. It's starting to be really in tune to your 5 senses. So it's like all hands on deck. Everything's being highly noted, or, it's noticing everything. It's very attentive to the world around it. So when you're counting, you're actually commanding your brain, hey, stop looking at all those things, stop paying attention, and just count. That's why people talk about counting sheep when they go to sleep, because it's commanding their brain to stop thinking of all those other things, right? So breathing for 4 and actually counting inside, 1, 2, 3, 4, holding for 4, and then releasing for 4. And
now, do you hold on the exhale? Because I do the 4, 4, the box breathing. 4 in, hold 4, 4 out, hold 4 in.
You can do it that way too. Yeah, exactly what people call box breathing. You just do that for about 2 or 3 times, and immediately you will feel the intensity of your stress response lessen. And it's using the language of your nervous system to tell it, we're safe, we're okay. Your logical it's called your prefrontal cortex. This is getting too brainy, but basically the logical, rational part of your brain that's like, oh, everything's okay. Am I really in danger? No, like the rational part, information doesn't even get up there until it goes through your emotional response. It's like, is this danger or not? Do I need to fight, flight, or freeze? So it's going to go through that system first. And if you can't bring that down, you're never even going to get the information to your prefrontal
Right.
cortex, right? And that rational part of your brain to actually think through, oh, is this dangerous? Probably not. I don't know if that's not very likely to happen. No, you've already like set off your nervous system. So breathing is your nervous system's language. It's saying, hey, we don't need to breathe fast. We don't need to run. We're okay. We're safe. And so it's creating safety in your body so that it can kind of lessen the intensity. Then you can think logically and rationally about the situation, right?
Yeah. The second you put your brain to controlling your breath, you're now in your body instead of all the external stimuli that's going around. And it's a huge stress reducer.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a woo-woo person for I mean, I learned yoga and stuff and probably junior high, but it was never something I really thought about until maybe the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you realize that these things that you heard about aren't just for weird people.
Yeah, like the
They're for
scientific community
everybody.
has also figured this out, right? As science goes, it's a pretty new field of study, right? And I mean, they are just confirming over and over and over the things that a lot of kind of Eastern religions or these, what we would call woo-woo communities or whatever, who now I'm in there with them, so I can say that. But there's science to back it up now. Like we actually see why these things work on a very biological level. And so that helps me because I am a little bit of a skeptic and I want to know the science. I want to know the why. I want to know that this isn't just all made up, right? And it's just all like imagined.
Not just the why, but how. How is that working? Like you can tell me it works. I can feel it works, but give me a little bit more of how that happens. And it's nice. You had everything that you've talked about is very, I want to say scientific, but gives you really that point by point. This is how come it works. This is how come doing these things can get you out of that stress cycle. And I have lived in that, replay that trigger for years and let it hold me back. I was never not a high performing individual, but emotionally, on a personal basis, it held me back. I shined at work.
Yeah.
But I get into a personal situation and I don't. And these things have helped me become an individual that didn't rely on a corporate environment to tell me who I am.
Yes. And to find your strength, the source of your own. I think that we are not an island and we need other people and we need the things outside of us to move us forward. So I'm not saying that all things need to come from just yourself, but I think a lot of us rely so heavily on things outside of us that we forget about the power within us. We forget about the wisdom that we have within ourselves. We forget that our body is speaking. We forget that there's so much that we already know and we forgot it. And we're almost reacquainting or relearning what we already knew as little kids, as babies, as little children. And then we kind of have forgotten that or pushed it away because it wasn't appropriate or it wasn't, really taught much in our social context. And so this is, in a sense, it's you coming back to you, what you already have within you and leveraging that and using that as just one more resource in your life, right? It's not an all or nothing or either or, it's a both and.
Yeah, let's pretend like our bodies are a car or our whole, everything about us is a car. That car is going to go until it runs out of gas, right? It's just going to keep going. I can just keep filling it up and I can keep filling it up and it's going to do its job. Eventually it's going to break down. It's going to go, hey, wait, you never changed my oil. Hey, wait, you never did this. Hey, wait, you never did that. It just was a vehicle that had a purpose. We treat our bodies like that. We do not take the time for the oil changes or the 30,000 mile checkup or the tire rotation. Those are the things that self-care is about. It's getting in there and doing things before they're a problem, not after they're a problem. And a lot of the self-care in the industry is, oh, I have pretty nails, or, oh, I have, things that are, you do it for yourself, but that's not helping your body unless while you're in the situation of getting your nails done, you are in a meditative state, because that can be a meditative state. So if it is, you are changing your oil. You are doing the things to keep your body going. So it is all the purpose behind that action that you're doing, not the purpose to look good, but what does it make you feel like in that process? And so I love that our cars can go fast. Our cars can stay in the garage. They're going to function as well as we take care of them. And they're going to get us to the work and back, and they're going to do all these things. But eventually, if you're not doing the extra things to take care of it, it will break down. And that's where this getting out of the stress cycle is so important, because it will keep you from building up and ruining the inside of your body if you can learn to move into that other restful cycle. So I love this. Thank you.
You're welcome. I love what you said about, self-care. And I just want to add to that. When I first started doing this work, I felt like, of course, I was like, I should. Self-care. I know. But it just felt like one more thing to my list of to-dos, my long list of to-dos. And I was like, yeah, I know I should, but when? When would I have time for that? Or like, how would I ever do that? Because I think in my mind, it was these big, like, get away for hours, or go and meditate for 30 minutes. What I'm trying to propose is there are ways you can do it for 10 seconds, right? Self-compassion is one of my favorite. You also asked like one of my favorite, but just like putting my hand on my heart and saying, you're okay. I'm here with you. You're safe. 3 seconds, move on, right? Like that is self-care. And that took very little time, right? Or breathing in and out for 4 seconds. That takes 12 seconds, even if just one breath or one box, or
and you can do it at the office in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah, like you can do it anywhere at any time. It's not something that you need to stop, or, it doesn't need to be this overwhelming thing in your life and just another thing on your to-do list. It's incorporating these things with what you're already doing. Even the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I do it in the shower. Like I feel my hair, I smell my shampoo, I taste the water, I touch my skin. I'm doing, like, I even do this in the moment. And this is taking care of yourself, and you're not adding a lot to your life. It doesn't need to be this big time suck, right? Because we don't have that to give.
No, we don't.
That you can even, put it on your schedule, just these little 5-minute breaks throughout the day. Go pee and just breathe. Right? Or whatever it is.
When I would get overwhelmed, I would add breaks to my calendar so that people didn't or on that reoccurring task list that Outlook has, where you check it off and it comes back in 30 minutes.
Yeah. Or even if you like to check it off, put the actual activity of a break, go outside in the sun, take my shoes off and just walk around the block. Whatever it is, put that on your test list and then check it off and get your dopamine hit from crossing it off or checking it off your list, right? Give it a little bit of extra pleasure to your life. It doesn't matter. Find these ways that work for you, because self-care is not only possible, it is your right. And so I just really want to make it seem a little bit more easy and doable, because it totally is. And it's available to you. It's possible for you. It's not something that we need to add or any shoulds or pressure. This is you loving you.
That is so beautiful. What a beautiful note to close on. I usually ask what additional wisdom you have.
Oh, we have to start another podcast because, girl, I got lots of wisdom. I'm just kidding. No, yeah, I think I want you to I think what I think is so hard is sometimes for us women to envision that life can be different for ourselves. And I want you to really envision, how would life be different if I wasn't stuck in a stress cycle? What would be different about my life? And really think through that as a motivation for you to give yourself time and energy towards this for yourself. And how would this even change the life of the people in my sphere of influence? How could I impact their life more when I take care of myself? And really answer that question, because I think it's really important for us. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm not going to say anything else. Thank you so much. Faith and I are not medical or mental professionals. We are here for entertainment purposes. The full disclosure is in the show notes, but yeah, we've been there, done that, and found a way around it. And I love this breaking the stress cycle. So thank you, Faith.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.